morning, everyone. Can't hear you. Good morning. That's the spirit. Mayors are supposed to be out there and not be afraid to say something. Connie, thank you for those kind words. You gave them exactly the way I wrote them. Seriously, it's great to be back here in Copenhagen. This is my second visit this year. The UN constantly ranks Denmark as one of the happiest countries in the world. Where else can you find a ski slope on top of an incinerator that turns waste into energy? Only here. Now, I did promise 6 months ago when I was here I would bring my skis this time, but I didn't. Anyways, it's always a pleasure to make this trip, and I was also here for COP15 Summit about a decade ago. Back then, the C40 was still a very young organization, and not too many world leaders were paying attention to what cities were doing back then. I think it's fair to say we've come a long ways since C40's founding back in 2005, when the then mayor of London brought together a network of global cities. And that work was led by Mark Watts, who is with us today. And as I'm sure Mark remembers, the original budget was only about £100,000, which meant he was doing all the work. And we overworked and underpaid him, which was a very successful business strategy. In 2008, the then mayor of Toronto, David Miller, took over as C40 chair, and he did a phenomenal job. David expanded the organization, both its budget and its ambition. I think he's here with us today, so let's give him and Mark Watts a big round of applause. When I became chair back in 2010, the annual budget was $750,000, and we began measuring the engagement of cities to create accountability. We hired world-class experts to help cities spread best practices through workshops and networks, and we also merged with the then Clinton Climate Initiative, and we expanded the voice that cities have in the direction of the organization, a move that was led by Copenhagen's Lord Mayor Frank Jensen. And we expanded our reach by recruiting more cities from the global south. In fact, I passed the job of chair to Rio de Janeiro Mayor Eduardo Paes. And to make all that work possible, we grew C40's budget from about $750,000 to $15 million. Now, Bloomberg Philanthropies was a donor, but we also had founding partners like Real Dardania and the Children's Investment Foundation, where Shirley Rodriguez was our main point of contact. And today, Shirley is the Deputy Mayor of London, and we're glad to have her with us today. She and her boss, Sadiq Khan, have made climate action a top priority in London. And lucky for them, there's not much news out of Parliament these days. It's almost as quiet as Washington. I don't know what they do during the day. Seriously, today, thanks to the work of our mayors and staff, C40 has grown to 94 cities. And if you are wondering why we still call it C40, don't ask. We also have a budget of $30 million now, with funding from more than 40 different sources. C40's remarkable growth allowed it to help cities move to the center of the global debate on climate change. And as that has happened, C40's influence and impact has expanded. A decade ago, all the talk about climate change was focused on presidents and parliaments, and mayors were outside the tent looking in. Over time, we forced our way into the tent, especially at the Paris Climate Summit in 2015. And now I think it's fair to say we are the tent. And today, national and international leaders recognize the importance of empowering mayors who are eager to lead. Or maybe they just don't have any solutions and they want to deflect to us. But either way, this really has reversed. Today, the actions are at cities, and it's the mayors that are leading, not at the federal levels. And that's certainly true in America. One person who deserves a lot of the credit for championing cities is the Secretary General of the United Nations, Antonio Guterres. And I think it says a lot about the importance of cities that he has joined us here in Copenhagen this week. In recent years, C40 cities have taken thousands of actions to tackle climate change and reduce carbon emissions. And I think the reason that C40 has been successful is that we have stayed true to our roots. So let me give you a few examples of what I think that means. Number one, we have always been data-driven. Science and data inform our decision-making, not politics or ideology or wishful thinking. At our foundation, we have a saying that we took with us from our time in business and government. In God we trust, everyone else bring data. We've always bringing data, and the data is clear on this. The need for climate action is only growing more urgent. It seems that every day the consequences of inaction are all around us. Listen to this. 18 of the 19 hottest years in recorded history have taken place since 2001. Let me repeat that. 18 out of the 19 hottest years in recorded history since 2001. Ocean waters are warming as well. In the Gulf of Alaska, officials had to reduce cod catches by 80% just to allow stocks to rebuild in the wake of heat waves. And to underscore how concerning that is, around the world, 1 billion people rely on fish as their primary source of protein. So warming oceans poses a very serious threat to public health and safety. Now here's the second way we found success by staying true to our roots. We are still led by mayors who understand that fighting climate change and growing the economy go hand in hand. We saw that in New York City. We cut our carbon footprint by 14%. At the same time, we created new jobs all across the city. And of course, New York is far from alone. Lord Mayor Jensen has done that here in Copenhagen, and mayors around the world have done that in their cities as well. Finally, there's one more way we've found success by staying true to our roots. We continue learning from one another. C40 encourages communication and collaboration. That helps us spread proven solutions from one place to the next and to the next. That kind of bottom-up progress takes on even greater importance in countries with national governments that are dragging their feet on climate action. And unfortunately, as embarrassing it is to say, Washington is the worst case, trying to take us backwards. About 2 years ago, President Trump announced his intention to withdraw from the Paris Climate Agreement. That wasn't the end of the story, though. Mayors across our country, along with thousands of businesses, universities, and states, all came together to declare we are not going to walk away from that agreement. Bloomberg Philanthropies, I'm proud to say, helped to pull everyone in under one banner. We call that America's Pledge, and together we are determined as a group to uphold America, the country's commitment under the Paris Agreement, even without any help from Washington. And I say that but perhaps one of the most important lessons here is that, at least in our case, and maybe in plenty of other cases, even if you don't have the support from the federal government, that is no excuse not to try to make change, and certainly something that does not prevent you from doing it. In fact, in America, you can make the case that Trump has done us a favor. Every time he riles against climate change, the money comes flooding in to help C40. At the same time, our foundation will also keep pushing forward with our new U.S. program, which we're calling Beyond Carbon. It's the biggest and most ambitious climate initiative ever undertaken in the United States, and by accelerating the progress that's already underway in cities and states, we think that Beyond Carbon will accelerate America's transition to a 100% clean energy economy. Now, as more and more U.S. cities take more urgent action, there's a lot that I think they can learn from all of C40's members. Later today, we are celebrating the best at the C40 Cities Bloomberg Philanthropies Awards. The team put together a sneak preview of that show, which we will show you right now. Look at the video.
Godmorgen. I am Hans Christian Andersen. Perhaps you've heard of me. They often ask me, Hans, what makes a great story? For me, a great story should have strong heroes using amazing powers to overcome a terrible threat. And that is why my next great story will be about all of you. Local heroes using amazing ideas to overcome the threat to our planet. If you want to hear the story and meet some of the world's great heroes, come to the C40 Cities Bloomberg Awards tonight. I'll see you there, if people will get off of me.
That looks like a fun event. Please join us and Hans Christian Andersen today at 5 p.m. But first, let me introduce one of C40's great champions. She has made Paris a global climate leader and a leader in the fight to save lives from air pollution in particular. Earlier this year, I stood alongside her as we announced a new partnership to install 150 air pollution monitors across Paris, and with the granular data we collect, we can help clean the air while also making a big dent in carbon pollution. Now, it's true that she has gotten a lot of grief for some of her efforts, and that is one of the great understatements, but she has stuck to her guns. This is one tough woman, and I give her an awful lot of credit for that. She has made the tough decisions, and my experience has always been that the public will reward you if you are honest and if you explain your intentions, even if they don't agree with you. When I made some tough decisions, my popularity went way down, and then 2 years later, way up when election time came. There is a reward for doing the right thing. And I think it's true, you don't have to be liked. You don't have to be somebody where the public agrees with you. What they want is that you're honest, and you're honest with them, and that your motives are going in the right direction. Now, I'm glad to see that our incoming chair, Eric Garcetti, has taken the same approach in Los Angeles. He stood up to stop the construction of new gas plants because solar and wind in the United States are cheaper now, and that's the kind of bold leadership we need. So we're glad to have him as our incoming chair. But first, please join me in giving a warm welcome to the mayor of Paris, who has done such a terrific job as the chair of C40, Anne Hidalgo.